how people respond to you and what they think of you, man, that matters. That's why you're on Facebook all the time and checking your texts. And it was perfect. So how do you beat perfect? And so they come out there and then you watch them and you're right on the edge of your seat, because what you see them do is something extraordinarily disciplined, just like the last person did, but they push themselves into that zone that's just beyond their disciplined capacity, and you can tell every second you're watching it that they're that close to disaster. And so you're right on the edge of your seat, and you know that they're doing a high wire act without a net. And so when they finally land triumphantly, you'll all stand up and clap spontaneously. And it's because you've just witnessed someone who's a master at playing a game, who's also a master at improving how to play that game at the same time. And people love that more than anything, to see that. It's just absolutely overwhelming, because it's a testament to the human spirit, and you'll respond automatically and unconsciously to that. And that's why, that's an analogy to why the animals all spontaneously bow when, now what happens is he shows the Lion King and the sun breaks and shines on the hero at the same time. So there's this concordance between an earthly event and a so-called heavenly event, and Jung would call that synchronous. That's his idea of synchronicity, where something important subjectively is also signified by something that appears in narrative keeping with that in the outside world.
On your journey of success, you're going to have to figure out how to get through the hard times, because they are going to happen. When you're journeying to try to become the successful individual that you aspire to be, and you've dreamt of being for years upon years, you are going to go through rough patches. You're also going to go through times where you're feeling extremely good and some super high moments, but also those super low moments as well. And when you're in those super low moments, you need to make sure that you remembered all the good times that have happened because of your pathway to success, and remember the potential that you have every single day to make it incredible and make it that something nobody else has ever seen or done before. You constantly need to have a positive mindset, and trying to get over any hardship will not be easy, but it will be significantly easier as long as you're focused on yourself and doing what it is that you truly love, because that's the ultimate motivator, is working for yourself on something that is going to benefit you and something that you genuinely and truly in the bottom of your heart enjoy to do. Because if you're stuck doing something for somebody else that they want you to do and something that's not a passion of yours, then it's going to be incredibly challenging to get up and want to do it and get motivated every single day to pursue that dream when it's not even your dream. And people are going to tell you that your dreams are crazy and not going to happen, but those are the ones who are jealous and the ones who won't go out and pursue theirs. They're all talk, but they won't walk the walk.
Let's say you're miserable and unhappy. Okay, here's a cure. Find what's valuable and let it go. So we could say, well, maybe it's a relationship that you have. Maybe it's a relationship with your parents, right? And the relationship is pathological, but you're locked into it. You value it, and no wonder, because it's a relationship with your parents. And you're suffering terribly because of it. Well, what do? Maybe you let it go. It's a sacrifice. And the idea is that, well, that'll clear the future for you. Well, very frequently when people are suffering terribly, not always, because sometimes you just suffer stupidly, blindly, and without recourse, you know. You get cancer and then you die. So we have no idea how to deal with that. But sometimes the reason that you're suffering is because you just won't let go of the thing that's biting you. And you think, well, I can't let go of, and I've had clients like this. I can't stop communicating with my mother, who phones me 3 times a day, every day of my life, and never says anything that isn't unbelievably critical and demeaning. I can't let that go. It's like, well, that's not such a good idea. The funny thing too, often when people let something like that go, it goes away, sorts itself out, and then comes back. So they don't even end up losing it. You don't make them less afraid. You make them braver. It's not the same thing. Because with an agoraphobic, see, what happens to them is the fall. They never conceptualize death and suffering. They're naive. It never enters the theater of their imagination, and it's because they're protected from it. But then something happens. This often happens to women in their 40s, because they're the people most likely to develop agoraphobia. Something happens. They've been protected from chaos by authority their entire life. So maybe they had an overprotective father, and then they went to an overprotective boyfriend, and then they went to an overprotective husband. And maybe they were willing to be subjugated to all 3 of those because of the protection, right? So that's the bargain. They stay weak and dependent, and maybe they have to because that's the only way they can appeal to the person who's hyperprotective. But the price they pay for that is that they're not sufficiently competent. And then something happens in their life, often in their 40s, they develop heart palpitations, maybe as a consequence of menopause. Their heart starts to beat erratically and they think, oh no, death. It's like, well, who are you going to talk to about that? You're having a rough patch in your relationship and you don't know why. It's unnameable. Is it real? Well, yeah, it's manifesting itself in like a physiological discomfort. Then you talk about it and you name it. It's like, It goes from this blurry thing that's kind of potential, it goes snap, and then it's this thing, right? And then that's a horrible thing. It's like a little poisonous thing, but it's not a whole foggy cloud of potential poison. It's like this little sharp poison thing. And then you think, okay, it's real. It's a little monster, but it's not, it's little at least, and now probably we can do something about it if we can admit to it. So it's this precision that specifies. And what do we make of that? Well, the way you figure that out is you have a conversation about it stupidly. You make all sorts of mistakes. You might even make racist mistakes. It's like, well, what is this thing? How are we supposed to get our hands around it? So how are we supposed to know what it is? Well, you can't talk about it because that's bad. It's like, it's not as bad as what you conjure up if you can't talk about it. Then it's the devil himself. I mean, that's how we demonize people.
Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please go ahead and like this video. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let us know what you thought down in the comment section below.